I just want to preface this whole video before I say anything else that I have been dealing with some kind of head cold, congestion for the past week. So if I sound a little funny, I apologize, but I really wanted to try to get this video up as soon as I could since we are now in December. So this is going to be my November reading wrap up, all the books that I read in November, and I'm going to tell you guys what I've rated them and what I think about them so you guys can look into them too, or just want to watch this fun book video. So I do have my Christmas decor up, and like I said, it is December, so I'm very excited. I am reading my first Christmas book right now, and I'm almost done with it, and I have very strong feelings about it. So go follow me on Instagram because I think I'm going to talk about it there. I feel like I just need to say something about it before I have to wait till January to post my December reading wrap up, if that makes sense. So go follow me on there because I think I'm going to say something soon when I finish this book. Hopefully I finish it today. Anyway, let's just go ahead and hop right into my November reading wrap up. So I actually read 6 books in November, which if you watched my October reading wrap up, I think, in TBR for what I want to read for November, I said I would love to read 6 books, and I did. It's a little bit different than what I had on my original TBR, so that's kind of fun. But I'm just going to start with the first book that I read in November, which is the second book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. This is Good Girl, Bad Blood, and this is by Holly Jackson. So again, I finished the first book in October, so that was in my other wrap up, but this is the second book, and I really enjoyed this book. Let me see what I rated this on Goodreads. I rated this a 4 stars. So the first book in the series I rated a 5 stars. This is a 4 star, and then my next book is the third book. But I really enjoyed this one. The only reason why I gave this one a 4 stars is because I think I enjoyed the first one and the third one. That's kind of a hint, I guess. But the third one more. I, again, really enjoyed this one. I love this whole series so much. So of course the next book that I read after that one was As Good as Dead. This is the last book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. This one was probably my favorite. This is obviously a 5 star just like the first one, but this one I would say is my favorite. I loved it. I read it pretty quickly. I just had to know what happened. I feel like a lot more involved the main character Pip, and that was really exciting. The ending I would say kind of threw me off, which I'm glad. I don't know if I would have wanted it any differently, but I didn't really know how that was gonna work out into the last few pages, so I thought that was really exciting. But I definitely recommend the series if you love a good like murder mystery thriller book. This is YA, so I would say any reading age could read it above, like, I don't know, I say start at a teenager because it's about murder, so I wouldn't want like kids reading this, I guess. But I really enjoyed YA, and I think I'm kind of learning that I like young adult because I don't know, it doesn't have all that nonsense that a lot of some of the books, adult reading books, have that I just don't really enjoy reading. So the next book that I read in November is It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, which this is the sequel to It Ends With Us. And I already knew going into this that I wasn't going to enjoy this one as much as It Ends With Us because, again, this is a sequel, and I know Colleen Hoover wasn't really planning on writing this when she wrote her first book, but because of the amount of people who loved It Ends With Us, she decided to come out with a sequel, and this is more about Lily and Atlas, which I like, but I didn't really need. Like, I feel like I got enough of everything in the first book, and I feel like it ended well. So I enjoyed this. I think I rated it a 3 star just because I felt like I enjoyed it because it's Colleen Hoover, but that's really pretty much the only, like, her writing's good, but that's like about it. I mean, there wasn't much, there was a plot, but like I didn't really care about the plot because I just felt like everything ended so well in the first one. So if you really enjoyed the first one and you're interested to see a lot more about Atlas, I would suggest this, but again, I could have gone without reading this, but I didn't like waste my time reading it, if that makes sense. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like the best book ever. So the next book that I read is The Maidens, and this is by the same author who wrote The Silent Patient, which I loved. I really want to reread that one because I read it quite a long time ago, and I'm pretty sure I would rate it like 5 stars because of the shock factor. But this was his next book that he's come out with, and I gave this 3 stars. At the beginning I was hooked, and I really enjoyed his writing at the beginning. I thought it was very poetic, and I really enjoyed that. But throughout the book, it just kind of dragged on a little bit because I was really trying to figure out who the killer was, obviously. And there is a twist at who it is, but then there was also another like added twist at the end that I just thought was kind of strange. So if you've read this, you kind of know what I'm talking about, so I didn't really enjoy that. Also, this has a lot of Greek mythology, which you don't need to know about Greek mythology to read this, but sometimes I found it a little bit hard with like the names of the Greek gods, and Greek mythology does not interest me. it is what it is. It's mythology, so I just don't really know why that was such a big factor in this, but I really did enjoy the like dark academia side of it. I haven't really read that many books like that, and so I did enjoy that. And I liked that, you know, there was a mystery, and I liked some of his writing, but it was a little bit dark for me, and it just felt a little bit flat, I guess, compared to The Silent Patient. Okay, this next book that I read is my favorite out of this whole month, and I gave this 5 stars, and please read this book. I love this book so much, but this is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, and this is my first book by her, so I'm definitely going to be picking up the next book that I think she came out with, which is called The Do-Over. I'm very excited to read that. I don't actually have that, but maybe I'm going to plan on reading that in January or something, but I loved this book so much. Again, I would say that this is a YA book, so it's good for any age range, but this... Why do my dogs drink and eat every time I film? Well, you just get a little added ASMR in this video. But this follows a girl named Liz and her next door neighbor Wes, and they have been enemies ever since they were little, but of course they become lovers, so it's enemies to lovers. But the reason why I really love this book is because in every beginning of the chapter they have a quote from a like romantic comedy movie, and that's why it's called Better Than the Movies, because the main character Liz, she loves watching like romantic comedies, and she just loves reminiscing on them because they remind her of her mother. And so every beginning of the chapter has one of these quotes, and I love those kind of older rom-com movies. They're kind of like the 90s, early 2000 movies, which are like my favorite, and so it kind of corresponds with that. But I really liked Liz's and Wes's dynamic in this book. I thought they did a really good job of it. I didn't feel like it was too fast-paced with them being enemies to lovers. This really made me feel like I was in high school again, which was really fun, although I didn't enjoy high school, but I could feel like the butterflies that I felt in high school like while I was reading this book, and I haven't felt that in so long, and I just really liked that. So if you're in the mood for just a good, fun, heartwarming, you don't need to worry about if it's too much spice or anything like that book, I definitely suggest this one. This is one of my favorites that I have read this year. So the last book that I read in November was Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover, and I have been wanting to read this for a while, and I really like this. I gave this a 4 stars. I didn't give it a 5 stars just because, I don't know, I didn't get that feeling like when I was reading Better Than the Movies, like, oh my gosh, this book is so good. But it was good, kept me like, you know, wanting to turn the pages and figure it out. I feel like Colleen's books really aren't just all about romance. It really deals with very real life things, and I really appreciate that because I don't know, it's not often you kind of like read about people who have gone through really horrible things and then kind of overcome that. But this is about a mom, and she actually has her baby while she's in prison, and so the baby gets taken away from her, and then when she gets out of prison, it's kind of her journey to try to get her daughter back. And also there is obviously a romance involved in that, and I loved his name Ledger. I just thought that was really cool, and who Ledger is, how he's like connected, is like really interesting. So I didn't really know how that was going to play out, but I really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4 stars. This was probably one of my favorites by her. My favorite is November 9. I liked it, Ends With Us, and Reminders of Him. I would say that that's probably my order. So those are all the books that I read in November. I would say I had a pretty good reading month, especially with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is like a 5-star series in my eyes, and then also Better Than the Movies. I feel like I had a really good, fun, quick reading month. I'm glad I was able to read 6 books. I don't think I've ever done that before. I'm hoping to read 5 or 6 in December, so keep updated with that if you want to see the Christmas and other books that I'm reading for the month of December. But I hope you guys enjoyed this reading wrap up, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.